What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Schmidt Show, a place where we talk about sports, culture, and everything in between. You guys are blowing me away. I cannot thank you enough for all of the support that the Schmidt Show has received so far. Got me feeling like anything is possible. Anything is possible! I can't say it enough. I am beyond grateful. You guys are blowing me away, taking this to heights I never would have thought we could achieve this fast. Already over 100 views on the second ever episode of the Schmidt Show. So round of applause to everyone out there. Appreciate all of the support. Another fire edition of the Schmidt Show coming your way. A couple of new pieces. We have our first guest on the show talking about the Masters. MLB opening day is here and a whole bunch more. Let's talk some Schmidt. Starting off with a Final Four recap. Kansas taking it all, rock chalk, Jayhawks coming back from down 16 at one point, 15-point deficit at the half. Kansas came through, locked down North Carolina. Actually an insane comeback by the Jayhawks. My guy Caleb Love struggled for North Carolina. Kansas shot nearly 58% from the floor in the second half. That's tough to beat. The Tar Heels just couldn't make any shots in the national championship game after pulling off the big win against their longtime rival, the Duke Blue Devils, in the Final Four game, ending Coach K's incredible 10-year career, and the Tar Heels with a magical run of their own, coming up just short. But you know who was making shots, especially down the stretch? Former ASU Sun Devil Remy Martin, of course, the grad transfer to Kansas. Before this season, he becomes a crucial cog in the machine that is Kansas winning it all for the 2022 national championship. Came up with a big block on Caleb Love in the second half. That was a highlight. Martin, of course, led the way for ASU in the 2019-20 season that had them poised for a possible tournament run that was cut short by COVID. Martin, just a special guy. Love his character, love his work ethic, and it showed. Transferring to Kansas and becoming a national champion. Congratulations, Remy Martin. Reviewing our Final Four picks. I know I said Villanova plus 4.5 in last week's episode, but on Saturday morning, game day, I was rolling with Kansas -4 and the Jayhawks able to get it done there. Called North Carolina +4 against Duke. Did think Duke would pull it out in a very close game, but as we know, North Carolina moving on to the championship game. The best play of Monday night's championship game, I thought, was the Kansas win by a margin of 1-10, and that was at like plus 175, the best odds for a close Kansas win, and that cashed for me.
Massive shout out to my guy Tabor Bales, an old buddy of mine from college at ASU, who not only had the final two teams in the national championship game, but also predicted the final score. Insanely cool stuff, Tabor.
Again, congratulations to the Kansas Jayhawks on the 72-69 national championship victory over the UNC Tar Heels. Moving on to the women's Final Four, top-seeded South Carolina taking on another number 1 seed Louisville on the other side. Number 2 UConn facing off against another number 1 seed, the Stanford Cardinal. The Gamecocks 8.5-point favorites against Louisville. Rode with the Cardinals spread, but called a South Carolina victory. Then getting it right, taking the UConn Huskies over Stanford for the championship matchup between South Carolina and UConn. Called this one. South Carolina just too dominant for UConn. You could especially see it down the stretch. The Gamecocks win their second national championship in program history. So congratulations to South Carolina. Big 26-point performance from Destiny Henderson. Aaliyah Boston wins the Final Four Most Outstanding Player, and then the Wooden Award right after. And she racked up the accolades this season. The South Carolina junior, incredible response after missing the game-winning putback shot against Stanford in the Final Four last year. Major props to Aaliyah Boston, Don Staley and company getting the job done this time. South Carolina, the 2022 Women's College Basketball National Champions. The 86th Masters underway at Augusta National, and everybody fired up for Tiger Eldridge Woods' return to the golf course. Hasn't played professionally in 509 days since his scary car accident that could have ended his life and almost took his right leg. So happy to see him back in action. It's great for the sport. Not a bad return for the legend, finishing 1 under par in the opening round on Thursday of the Masters. Congratulations, Tiger. Here were some of my picks before tee-off on Thursday morning. With the help from my good buddy Christian Blackwell back in Nashville, Cameron Smith, Scotty Scheffler, Brooks Koepka, and Justin Thomas, all great options to win it. Should be an exciting race over the weekend. On this edition of the Schmidt Show, we have our very first guest in the history of the show. I'd love to welcome Millard Shane Thomas. Welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on the 3rd episode of the Schmidt Show, the first guest. I'm honored to be here, me.
Yes, sir. We're riding. Millard, you are deep in the sports scene here in the Valley. Of course, leading the Locked On Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, and then a graphic designer for the Arizona Coyotes. Just in the life, how has everything been for you? Executing both of these jobs, and how are you enjoying it?
It's been it keeps me busy for sure. I mean, going to a 9 to 5 during the day and doing the podcast like 5 days a week after is not always it's a grind for sure. Let me not say I don't like it, because I definitely do enjoy it, and I know other people would wish to have my shoes, like, oh, you're just talking sports or just creating graphic design, like that's so easy. I would love to do that. Yeah, like I love doing it too, and it's definitely a grind to it, but it's something I genuinely enjoy. The old cliche, if you love what you do every day, is like you're not going to work.
Exactly.
So I love going to the Coyotes. It's a great environment. My colleagues are amazing there. My coworkers are amazing. So I love working for the Coyotes. And now with baseball around the corner, I mean, the offseason has been fun. The lockout was not fun, but post-lockout, we've had the free agent frenzy. So baseball, the podcast has been popping. The numbers have been doing pretty solid. So I'm having a great time talking baseball right now, and I think this is dropping the day of opening day. So we're doing a little preview of the season here. So I'm very excited. The D-back season is wrapping up, or not the D-back season. The Yote season is wrapping up, but the D-back season is just getting started.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned it already. The big Major League Baseball expert and covering the D-backs so closely. Starting with our 2022 MLB season preview opening day on Thursday, what is your outlook on the Arizona Diamondbacks headed into opening day?
Yes, my main mission for the D-backs this season is just to finish better than the Colorado Rockies, because I got a beef for Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies right now. He knows this. We've been going back and forth on Twitter because he thinks the Rockies are going to finish with a better record than the D-backs. That might be possible because the D-backs had 52 wins last year and coming off arguably the worst season in franchise history.
It was
rough. They set the all-time road losing streak record. It was not a good season by D-back standards, but if you go on MLB's Twitter, if you go on The Athletic, all these websites, if you look at the projections, you know where they have the D-backs? Ahead of the Rockies in the final standing. The D-backs are projected. Yeah, we deserve an A for that one after last season, because the D-backs.
You said that the Diamondbacks are projected over the Rockies. Both of them have the same exact odds to win it all at 25,000. So, possible Cinderella, probably not, but
if you want to put $1 down to potentially win like $2,500, yeah, go do that for the D-backs because it will be a miracle if the D-backs won a World Series. Right now, their projections are probably between 70 and 75 wins. I would probably have them around 72.5 wins this season. And that would be a great season. If the D-backs won 72 games, that means it's a 20-win increase from last year. That means we probably had Ketel Marte healthy for a full season, Zach Gallen healthy for a full season. Like, on paper, this team probably should be at least competitive enough to play playoff spoiler down the stretch for a lot of these contenders. Maybe keep it close enough where I get to keep watching as we enter September for the wild card race, even though I don't think they're going to be a wild card team. Maybe they could just keep my hopes alive long enough where I get to keep watching them through September. But overall, what is my expectation level for the D-backs this season? Probably around 70 wins. Just be competitive. Get the pitching staff a little bit better. Brought in a new pitching coach, Brent Strom. Is supposed to be the King Midas of pitching coaches. Whoever he touches turns into a Cy Young Award winner. I don't think that's going to happen for Madison Bumgarner, but if he can turn Madison Bumgarner into a guy that's worth the $20 million that he's getting paid annually over the next 3 seasons, that will make Brent Strom the MVP of this season. So my expectations.
The D-backs gave him a bag when they pulled him out of San Francisco. And you brought up Ketel Marte. He just got a new deal. What are your thoughts on the deal for the second baseman, the youngster and the star of this franchise?
Oh, it was quite literally the best contract extension in the sport of baseball. This is someone who finished 4th in MVP voting back in 2019. He struggled during the 2020 season, but it's 2020, the 60-game season. We just throw that out. We just act like it didn't happen. Outside of that, you look at the last 2 years when he's been healthy, this has been an MVP guy. Last season, just in baseball, in like the 90 games he played, he was, you can make the argument, one of the top 3 to 5 baseball players in the National League.
Oh,
he was a baller. He's a legit baller and stud when he's healthy. So to see him get 5 years, $76 million when Marcus Semien just signed with the Rangers for like 8 years, $250, like it's quite literally the biggest steal in baseball.
Yeah, very team friendly, and the Valley is happy to have Ketel Marte back. Definitely keeps this team somewhat competitive. The over-under on the wins this season is 69 and a half?
Somewhere around that. I could probably
play like that. You know, you talked about that contract being so good for the D-backs and Marte getting a good deal out of it as well. Who had the best offseason and who had the worst offseason around the league?
Loaded question there. Loaded question. A lot of people are hailing the Dodgers for their offseason. I won't be one of those people. I like the Dodgers offseason, of course, getting Freddie Freeman. Huge addition to your team, but their lineup was already stacked. And we can't forget, if they didn't pull off this Craig Kimbrell move, I don't know if the Dodgers actually got more talent than the talent that left the team, because Corey Seager, Max Scherzer, Kenley Jansen, a couple other relievers, they needed that Craig Kimbrell trade bad because the back end of that bullpen had a huge hole. But now I like the Dodgers offseason because of it. But did you ask me the best offseason first or the worst offseason first? I already forgot.
Hey, go for it, best and worst.
We'll do both. We'll knock it out. We'll just do a quick 10-minute rant for the people on the Schmidt Show today. So for best offseason, you got a couple candidates. I already mentioned the Dodgers. I probably have them at dead even for best offseason. For best offseasons, I really like the Mariners offseason. I know not everyone likes it because they acquired Eugenio Suarez, who's overpaid and hits below the Mendoza line. But guess what? That man hit 45 home runs this year. It would surprise no one with the 800 OPS. I think they would probably happily take that. He's probably right along the lines of what Kyle Seager gave him last year. Acquired Jesse Winker, all-star outfielder last year. Some people think he's a glorified platoon player. We'll see. I don't think that. And they got the old D-backs friend who won the Cy Young Award last season in Robbie Ray. So I really liked what the Mariners did this offseason. The Braves had a pretty good offseason too. I wish they just ended up paying Freddie Freeman, but Matt Olson is a little bit younger than Freddie Freeman with a Kenley Jansen, and they're going to get some healthy bodies back. I like what they did. The Rangers were like, hey, we have sucked the last couple years. The rebuild isn't working. Let's go out there. Let's get Marcus Semien. Let's get Corey Seager. Let's get John Gray. They're still going to suck this year. But big splashes. They're still going to be terrible, though, Ethan. So in a couple years, they'll be a team to watch out for. But for this season, that Rangers team still has nobody. And I'm probably still missing a team on best off seasons. But when you look at the worst off seasons around the sport of baseball, The Yankees come to mind just because it felt like, I don't know. I don't know if they actually improved this offseason. Like getting Josh Donaldson, that was a good pickup. But to trade Gio Urshela and Gary Sanchez, I don't know if that was the right move. Everyone wanted them to get one of these shortstops, Seager, Carlos Correa, one of these guys, Trevor Story. That didn't happen. And Trevor Story went over to the Red Sox. So I don't think the Yankees had a great offseason because of that, just because I don't know how much they actually improved their team. But if you want to talk about a team just unloading their roster, look at the Cincinnati Reds and Oakland A's. Those two teams are like, hey, we're starting the tank early. We're already planning next offseason's Cancun trip because those two franchises are not trying to win games this season. The Reds unloaded all their best players, as did the Oakland A's, who just completely blew up their rotation and traded Matt Chapman.
Banana boat style. And you mentioned the A's, and I think opening day, their payroll is going to be like 33 million. Maybe it's jumped a little bit, maybe with some extra acquisitions here nearing opening day, but there's players in the league that are making more than that a season.
Yeah, their payroll is going to be crazy. And also, I don't want to forget, the Mets had a fantastic offseason. They're probably my offseason winner. To get Max Scherzer, to get the starring Marte, Eduardo Escobar, another fan favorite from the D-backs, Mark Canha, they had a pretty loaded. They got Chris Bassett, too, from the Oakland A's, who we just mentioned. So I probably have the Mets as the biggest offseason winner with those other losers I mentioned from the offseason.
Yeah, you mentioned Eduardo Escobar. I love that guy. He did so much for the community here in Phoenix, and I was sad to see him leave, but I wish him all the best with the Mets. I got him on my fantasy team.
Hey,
so that's exciting. And you and me rolling with a couple of other friends from college in fantasy baseball. My first time ever playing fantasy baseball. I'm stoked for it. I do have the highest playoff percentage. I don't know. We'll see.
Preseason report cards. This guy. All right.
Well, as we continue on, who's going to be there in the end? As we begin this 2022 season, a lot of possible contenders. Who's your top five?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Looking at the odds from betonline.net to win the World Series, their top five contenders are the Dodgers, Blue Jays, Braves, Astros, and White Sox. I would agree with most of that list in that order too. Probably Dodgers, Blue Jays, Braves as my top three teams, but I would probably bump down the Astros to number 6. I like them a lot, but Lance McCullers is still dealing with an injury from last season. They lost Carlos Correa. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the World Series, but I wouldn't have them as my pick. I think I would replace the Astros at number 4. This is a very crazy pick, I know, but I'll go with my number 5 guy. My number 5 team is going to be crazy. My number 4 team is, I'm going to have the team that I just said won the offseason with the New York Mets. Now, that is contingent on DeGrom. Yeah, it's contingent on DeGrom actually being healthy for 75% of the season, because he's already starting this year off with injuries. I don't think he's going to start maybe the first couple years of the first couple series of the year for the Mets. So that's a huge hole in their rotation if DeGrom's not healthy. But if that team is healthy, they're pretty loaded at a lot of spots. So I like them a lot as the number 4 team. But my number 5 team in terms of best, likeliness to make it to the World Series, or just teams I think that can make it to the World Series, I'm going to have the Boston Red Sox. I know it's a crazy pick. I already know Chris Sale's on the 60-day injured list, but guess what? What's any different from this season for the Red Sox from last season when they had Chris Sale miss the first 4 months of the year and Nate Eovaldi had to be the number 1? You know what the difference is? They have Trevor Story now. He's a beast. He's a baller, and they're going to smash their way to 90-plus wins. Huge pickup. Get stolen from the Yankees. Screw the Yankees. The Red Sox got them, and they're going to smash their way to 90-plus wins and a World Series berth. Boom.
So AL East crown, the pennant, going back to Boston?
Yeah, I'll say the American League crown because they'll make it to the World Series, but I won't say they win the division. I think the Blue Jays will win the AL East. And the hot take Sully Baseball and I had from our last podcast, the New York Yankees will miss the postseason. Boom.
Ooh.
Bye-bye, Brian Cashman. Bye-bye, Aaron Boone.
Man, I'm sweating after that take, actually.
Yeah,
I'm actually sweating too. I think you just upset a lot of Yankees fans with that one.
Screw them. They've been in my mentions the last year about Ketel Marte, so screw all the Yankees fans.
That's fair. And, now we've gone over the league as a whole, just as far as where some of these teams could end up with this season, and it's gonna be very competitive. I mean, we've talked about plenty of the off-season moves, and definitely going to be an exciting year. I'm intrigued to actually follow all 162 games this season. So
That's a lot.
diving into more of the players individually, what are your thoughts on possible AL and NL MVP candidates?
Yeah, let's pull up the odds once again because it's always easier to do than just trying to do it off my head. So look at the American League odds once again, courtesy of BetOnline.net. Thank you. Shout out to my friends over there. Right now in the American League, the top 5 candidates are Otani, which is not a surprise. Mike Trout,
Yeah.
his teammate, Vlad Guerrero Jr., who finished runner-up last season. Byron Buxton, who I don't think is a crazy name either. The problem is he only can play half a season. It seems like that's been the story of his career. If he can play 150 games plus, he could definitely win the MVP. And then number 5 on this list is Luis Robert from the White Sox. I found that kind of surprising. Then got Wander Franco, like 6, who was a rookie last season and is probably still going to be rookie eligible this year. Then Kyle Tucker, 7. So really, for me, the American League MVP is a very easy conversation. They have one player in that league that can both pitch and hit. He should win MVP every season if he puts up numbers similar to what he did last season. If he's going to be 30,
have at for the odds for him for Otani.
oh, for Otani, they have it at 3-1 right now. So they have it.
Okay, I just pulled up the top odds. It was DraftKings plus 350. I mean, that's not a bad pick if you put some money on plus 350. And I mean, if Otani is healthy, that's a lock.
Yeah, there's no one else. I think if you're going for American League MVP, I mean, taking the guy that's going to be the best pitcher on the Angels, like literally their number 1 starter, and arguably, we'll see how Mike Trout does if he can stay healthy. Arguably, either the best or easily their second best position player. That guy should win MVP the next 10 years if he puts up numbers similar to last year. Then looking at the National League, let's pull them up. Juan Soto has the best odds at 3-1 as well. Then Ronald Acuna Jr. second. I don't think he's going to win it because he might not come back to like May or June. He just might miss too much time. Bryce Harper's third, which is interesting because he won it last season. So we'll see if he could do back-to-back. Mookie Betts is fourth, and then Freddie Freeman's fifth. 2 Dodgers rounding out the top 5. But of that 5, I think I'm going to lean toward Mookie Betts because this is a guy who is every other year has an MVP season, and last year was his down year by his standards. So I think this year will be the MVP season by Mookie Betts because I think the last time he won it was in 2018. So it's time. It's time for Mookie to get another one.
Mookie.
Oh,
you got to be reeling as a Sox guy.
Oh, I got the Betts t-shirt jersey, and then 3 months later he was traded. So it definitely hurt.
Yeah, that's tough, but I mean, that's interesting. We talked about Betts and Freeman, of course, both Dodgers, and in the top 5 of the odds listed. So that would be interesting. I mean, we could see sort of a Devin Booker situation translating over to MLB where, these guys are on the best team and they're centered around such a great core of players. So that'll be interesting to see if a Dodger could end up being the NL MVP. And, Bryce Harper won it last year, and I think he's at plus 900. So that's not a bad pick to ride either.
Yeah, and the Phillies might be better this season I think they had a pretty good offseason. Of course, they sacrificed defense a lot, and they got some redundant positions. But they had Castellanos, who's a legit all-star. Kyle Schwarber's a walking 30 bombs every season. Like, the Phillies are going to be able to score runs, and so their 85 to 90 wins are and sniffing that wild card mix once again. Bryce Harper's going to be right there in the MVP conversation.
Well, you bring a guy like Castellanos, and that has me thinking, he was an all-star player, caliber player on the Reds, and Cincinnati just unloaded. What are your thoughts on that? Especially in baseball, when a team has a player like that, why wouldn't they want to lock him up? Why would you let somebody like that go?
You asked me the biggest trigger question I have as a baseball fan because I don't understand teams wanting to trade their best player for no reason. We see it. We saw it with the Red Sox trading Mookie Betts. The worst example is what the Colorado Rockies did with Nolan Arenado, where they just got back a mediocre pitcher in Austin Gomber and no top prospects. That's the thing with these baseball deals. You'll trade your superstar and not get back the top prospects in the deal. And if you do get back the top prospects, most of the time it doesn't work out. Just go look. I've done podcasts about this. If you go look at the last 10 years and go look at all the superstar trades, trades, most of them don't work out. Most of those teams, they'll get back 3 of the top 10 prospects in that other team's organization, might get quote unquote blue chippers, and those guys typically don't work out. So for me, I think you should never rebuild. You should always spend money since there's no salary cap. Look at what the Rangers have been since Adrian Beltre has left. They've tried rebuilding. It has not worked. So now they went out there and got Simeon and Corey Seager. The Tigers, they traded everyone a few years ago. Scherzer, Justin Verlander, JD Martinez. Guess what? All the players they got back in those deals, all of them suck. So now they're going out there and they're spending money. Javier Baez, Eduardo Rodriguez. Same with the Miami Marlins. They traded Ozuna, Christian Yelich, and Giancarlo Stanton. Guess what? The players that they got back, they suck. They don't even play for that team. So don't trade your superstar players because historically it will not work out.
Well, we talked about the AL and NL MVPs. So now moving on to the guys will be on the bump. Starting pitchers, possible Cy Young candidates in both leagues.
Yeah, the American League is weirder because the depth of the American League Cy Young field is just not very strong. Like if you followed the race last season, you're like, dang, like Robbie Ray's really about to win the Cy Young right now. Like, I don't know if I believe this. He had like 3 White Sox in like the top 7 of voting. Like the field was just weak. So looking at it this year, like Garrett Cole's the favorite on BetOnline, Lucas Giolito's second, Shane Bieber's third, Robbie Ray's fourth, and then Dylan Cease is fifth. Like literally 2 White Sox in the top 5. And if Carlos Rondon was still on the White Sox, I guarantee you they have 3 of the top 6 Cy Young candidates. So that's how weak the field is. So among those guys, we'll see how much he pitches this season, but I think Shane Bieber is legit. I'm not just saying that because I like to go by Shane in my personal life. So Shane Bieber, he won the Triple Crown, I think, for pitchers in that 2020 shortened season. Basically missed half the year last year because of injuries. So if Shane Bieber could come back healthy and he pitches around 180 innings, I think I like him for the American League Cy Young. And
he's at plus 700s. It's not a bad pick.
Yeah, I think he's at plus 700 as well on betonline.net. Robbie Ray would be interesting, but I don't think he could bounce back. Robbie Ray winning back-to-back Cy Youngs would break my brain, and I cannot see that happen. I can't live in a reality where the D-backs trade Max Scherzer 20 years ago, and then they repeat history by trading a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. So hopefully we do not see that. But looking at the map,
it really is. It sucks for the D-backs. I mean, you know, we're talking about them having, they'll be lucky to have over 70 wins, and seeing a guy like Robbie Ray going off and, revitalizing his career because he wasn't doing so hot here in Phoenix, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was happy to see Robbie Ray get moved at the time that it happened because I thought Robbie Ray was done. Like the dude was not good for the D-backs. Whenever it was Robbie Ray Day, that meant it was time to take some ibuprofen and take some aspirin because I was going to have a headache with this guy on the mound. But now you see him, American League, and he decided to turn into the best pitcher in the sport, which is very frustrating. But looking at the NL Cy Young Awards, Max Scherzer's the favorite with the Mets, which is kind of crazy to think about because he's like 45 years old and he's still one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball.
He's
so
a geezer out there. He's wheeling and dealing though.
He's a beast. No doubt. Like if he won the Cy Young Award, like it will shock no one because he was legit that good last season. Corbin Burns is second. Jacob deGrom is third. Rondon is fourth. And then Walker Buehler is fifth. Corbin Burns is very interesting because he had a fantastic season last year. He might have won it last season. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but Burns might have won it last season. If you pick any of the Brewers guys, because the Brewers are going to have 3 dudes that finish like top 10 in Cy Young voting, their rotation is stacked. It's not like the White Sox rotation who are going to have 3 Cy Young candidates just because of the depth. No, the Brewers rotation, take any of those 3 guys and they could be the number 1 starter in any rotation. So that rotation for the Brewers is elite. But I think among those top 5 guys, I think I'm going to go with the LA Dodger and Walker Buehler, actually, who Kershaw is no longer the ace of that team. Like Kershaw is washed, guys. Okay, maybe not washed. He's still pretty good as a number 3 starter. Like if Kershaw
it's about the playoffs.
Yeah,
playoffs. Kershaw is not the guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, playoff Kershaw sucks. But if he came to the D-backs, he would easily be our number 2 starter. And I won't get into the Zach Gallen conversation. But
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can ask me.
Who's got Scherzer in our fantasy league?
I'm guessing you by the way you posed the question. I mean, I haven't studied your team too hard yet, sir, but I'm guessing you have Scherzer. I know you have Castellanos, don't you? Don't you have Castellanos
Yeah,
on your team?
Castellanos, deep drive in the left field.
Yeah, always,
Yeah,
always with
I got Scherzer, best pitcher, so I'm excited. Well, that's pretty much wrapping up the preview. I know your dark horse is your Boston Red Sox, and definitely some great odds out there, especially for your picks. Looking at it, I mean, even Ohtani being plus 350. That's pretty incredible odds, to be honest. Yeah, might as well smash that. Yeah, it's going to be a very exciting and competitive season. I mean, we talked about some heavyweight contenders, but in this preview, we discussed so many teams that made great offseason acquisitions and that are loaded and trying to make a run at the postseason title.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with baseball this season. There's a lot of parity if you remove the Dodgers, because the Dodgers feel like overwhelming favorites, as they should be. They have a stacked rotation, stacked lineup. We don't have to talk about them. But outside the Dodgers, like, you look at the American League, like, everyone's saying, everyone says the Blue Jays are favorites, but if the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Rays, Astros, whoever, Mariners came out, no one would be surprised. The White Sox, no one would be surprised. The National League, I mean, the Dodgers are heavy favorites, but we saw them lose to a team that won like 89 games last season, the Atlanta Braves, who went on to win the World Series. So if someone could beat the Dodgers, it's wide open. What'd you say? I think
it's like go Braves, baby. I was so upset that they let Freeman go, but we'll see what Matt Olson can do.
Yeah, Matt Olson should be like 90% Freddie Freeman at least. I just think they should have signed him because they gave away basically their whole farm system for Matt Olson when they could have just re-signed Freddie Freeman. So.
Yeah, I mean, why not lock up a guy like Freeman? I mean, he's been the face of your franchise for it's been at least 12 seasons. He's been a Brave, I think 15 years in the system. So it was questionable for me, but roll with the younger guy, and we'll see what happens. I think the Braves have an opportunity to be right back there, but that will do it for our 2022 MLB Season Preview, opening day on Thursday, April 7th. And I'm very excited. And Millard, we appreciate you joining the Schmidt Show. First ever guest in the history of the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Follow Millard Thomas at Creator Thomas 24. Of course, the voice of Locked On Arizona Diamondbacks and graphic designer for the Arizona Coyotes. Hey, Millard, we appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Schmitty, thanks for having me on.
Now it's time for NBA talk on the Schmidt Show. And how about them Phoenix Suns? The fellas securing a new franchise record 63 wins on Tuesday night with a victory over the Lakers while eliminating their rivals in Los Angeles from playoff contention. A special moment for this franchise and for the Valley. An incredible moment after the game. Devin Booker signed his jersey and gave it to the legendary Suns broadcaster Al McCoy, writing, "To Al the legend, franchise record, pure class from D-Book. The Suns doing something very special this season. No other team in the association can achieve 60 wins, while the Suns still have a chance to build on 63 wins. The playoff race in the NBA is still oh so tight. The play-in tournament beginning on April 12th. The Miami Heat with a 2-game lead on securing the first seed in the Eastern Conference. Playoff and play-in set for the East. Still very tight for the 2 through 4 seeds. Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly. Some shuffling still possibly amongst those teams for seeding. And then the Bulls most likely locking in the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The Bulls have struggled mightily here down the stretch. My boy DeMar DeRozan puts up 40 against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they still lose by 21 and blown out by Miami and Boston in the last week. It's going to be tough sledding for Chicago to make it out of the first round this year. In the West, of course, the Phoenix Suns, the best team in the league by quite a wide margin this season, of course, having locked in that number 1 seed in the West a long time ago. The Grizzlies, shout out Tennessee, securing the 2nd spot in the Western Conference playoffs, while the 3rd through 6th seed still to be decided. Looks like the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be the 7th seed in the play-in tournament. The NFL continuing to make headlines per usual. Of course, the 2022 NFL Draft less than a month away in Sin City, Las Vegas, playing host for the first time. As you know, if you follow the NFL, everybody posting their mock drafts. So many different ones out there, but a lot of the consensus is that the number 1 pick made by the Jacksonville Jaguars will be Aiden Hutchinson, the edge rusher out of Michigan. One of the latest mock drafts that I like, Good Morning Football's Peter Schrager dropped his first mock draft, a guy that's always on top of his shit. Here it is. As I mentioned, Aiden Hutchinson at number 1 on Peter Schrager's board. He has Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon going to the Detroit Lions. And you can see the first quarterback off the board as early as pick number 6, with quarterback Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh going to the Carolina Panthers. And then plenty of discussions around defensive end Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. He's been mentioned as a possibility to be a number 1 pick, possibly leaping Aiden Hutchinson or going to Detroit at number 2. Continuing on in Schrager's mock, Derek Stingley Jr., the LSU cornerback, going to the Minnesota Vikings, according to Schrager. Then later in the first round, the 2nd quarterback drafted Malik Willis out of Liberty to Pittsburgh. And then the Cardinals at 23, Schrager has them taking wide receiver Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. Nearing the end of the first round, Schrager projecting the Titans to take Georgia linebacker Nakobe Dean. Then 2 more quarterbacks off the board, with Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral going to Seattle. And the final pick of the draft, Detroit taking Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. Another blockbuster offseason deal, Bills wide receiver Stephon Diggs getting a massive extension to stay in Buffalo. 4 years, $96 million. Could make even more worth in incentives to stay in Buffalo. Now under contract with the Bills for a total of 6 years. Bills Mafia's gotta be fired up. The entire city buying into the franchise. The Bills, of course, set to be heavyweight contenders in the AFC heading into this next NFL season. Stoked to see if the Bills can go even further now, making Stephon Diggs happy. Him and Josh Allen remaining a tandem for a long time to come in Buffalo. Some big name free agents still unsigned. Stephon Gilmore hasn't found a home yet, the longtime Patriots cornerback, and Tyrann Mathieu still hasn't signed. Mathieu reportedly visited with the Saints this past week. Any team that may pick up one of these guys will immediately be better, I can guarantee that. We've reached the culture part of the Schmidt Show. Obviously, it's been a rough go for the Los Angeles Lakers this current NBA season. But I just started watching the new show Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO, and it is fire. Great dramatization of the Lakers' 1979-80 season after drafting Magic Johnson in his rookie season with the Los Angeles Lakers. A very unique insight into the culture of that era, the beginning of the 1980s, and showing what basketball was like in that time. In the latest episode, such a cool depiction of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's internal conflicts and battling social justice, of course, being the best basketball player of his time, all while striving to achieve equality for black people and minorities in America at the time. Gotta love John C. Reilly as Dr. Jerry Buss. If you haven't checked out the show, I highly suggest it. New episodes come out every Sunday on HBO. Winding down this edition of The Schmidt Show. Not much time to talk about music this week, as we had a loaded show on the sports side of things, but I'm going to start music video shoots this weekend. So stoked. Going to begin shooting some flicks for my guys Pilot and Boone, who we talked about last week on the Schmidt Show. Going forward, still have so much to come on plenty of different fronts. Talking about the vision for this show, I want it to be the very best it can be. Always taking suggestions, ideas, anything you have for me, you know where to find me. Now that the Schmidt Show is on this platform, I'm going to start raising awareness for climate change, something that is very important to me, and also cancer research. If you're close to me, you know that I lost my mother to a long battle with cancer when I was young, something that is very close to my heart. So I want to try to do everything I can on the front of cancer research. Such a horrible disease, and I hate seeing anybody, and I never wish it on my worst enemy to have to battle cancer. With that being said, as the Schmidt Show continues to take off, thanks to all of y'all's support, we are going to pave way on some of those important initiatives that are especially important to me. As the show continues to grow, we will continue to have more guests. Again, special thanks to our first guest in the history of the show, Miller Thomas, for coming on this week. Please take the time to like, share, subscribe. Always welcoming feedback, suggestions, ideas. So thankful for all of the support thus far, and I promise the Schmidt Show will continue to get even better each and every week. Appreciate you tuning in to the latest edition of the Schmidt Show. We'll see you next week. Peace.